Bo Nix started all 17 games as a rookie for the Broncos, and now heading into year 2, the spotlight's on. Was his rookie season a solid foundation to build on, or are there areas that still need serious development? In this breakdown, I'm diving into the film to show you the moments where Nix looked like a solid franchise quarterback and the ones that reveal what he still needs to clean up. Let's dive right into it.
Hey.
Alright guys, so before we get into this first play from Bo Nix, which is an absolute dot of a throw, I wanted to give a brief overview of Bo Nix for you guys that weren't super familiar with him as a prospect. So he's 6'2", 215, and the Broncos actually used their 12th overall selection in the 2024 draft class to get him. So a lot of people were kind of concerned with how highly they drafted him, because a lot of people thought he was a second to a third round pick just because he was an older prospect and showed some real struggles when he competed against the SEC competition while he was at Auburn. But when he moved to Oregon in his final 2 seasons in his college career, he really showcased some really good ball placement, some good reads as well in that RPO offense, and overall really shot up his draft stock. And overall nowadays, these quarterbacks that are staying longer, he was a 5th-year player in college, those guys tend to have way more experience and are overall a little bit more pro-ready, and Bo Nix absolutely showcased his ability to be pro-ready in his rookie season. So in this kind of play here, it's very simple. It's just a verticals play, so outside release. He kind of gets stumped on this on his release. Corner gets pretty physical. The guy that he's actually throwing to is this inside receiver here, who's basically just kind of trying to split these safeties, and then this guy's outside release go ball. And then your running back's going to check protection, come down here for the check down. Same thing here. He's going to chip block this guy and then come out for the check down as well. But Bo Nix, he doesn't really want to do that. In terms of the coverage here, it's straight man-to-man coverage all across the board. And you have your 2 deep safeties, so we call this cover 2 man or cover 5, just depending on who's teaching the concept. And you're about to see a beautiful ball right between the safeties from Bo Nix. Beautiful 5-step drop. I want to go over his drop real quick because I think his drops are very, very good. So hikes the ball, boom, 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 5 steps, steps into the throw, throws it. So beautiful mechanics here, throws on rhythm. That's something that you're going to see a ton from Bo Nix, is him throwing on rhythm. Sean Payton, they love to use that play action, get him out into space because he's really mobile. We'll go over that in a little bit. But you see, he just throws with anticipation right in between the 2 safeties, and it ends up being a 93-yard touchdown for Marvin Mims. But overall, guys, Marvin Mims didn't get that much separation on this play. Bo Nix put it in between 3 defenders. Perfect ball placement. Now, I will say Bo Nix does tend to do this a little bit, pushing the ball downfield into tight windows, and sometimes that gets him into trouble, but in this play, he puts it on the money for a 93-yard touchdown. Beautiful play here from Bo Nix. Alright guys, so in this next play, it's a little bit of a tricky play from the Broncos, and it showcases Bo Nix's ability to kind of use his eyes to lure defenses into a false sense of security, and it ends up pretty much causing the touchdown here. So you see that the Broncos are in 12 personnel, so they're in a 2 wide receiver set here and here, and then you have your 2 tight ends here. So normally to defenses, this means this is going to be a run play. Sean Payton really loves doing like relatively run-heavy offenses and then play off the play action, which Bo Nix is very superb at doing. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to fake the handoff to Audric Estime like they're running like an inside zone. So they're going to have him checking protection coming out here into the flat, being the check down. And then they're going to have Marvin Mims kind of doing this bubble screen. So they run this bubble screen concept a ton, and this looks like an RPO play, right? So he's going to hand it off to the running back and then fake throw it to Marvin Mims, basically pump it to him, and Courtland Sutton does a really good job of looking like he's going to block before he just pushes upfield. And then for the tight ends, same kind of thing, acting like they're blocking, and then he explodes upfield. And then Adam Troutman here, he's just slowly leaking up the field. And this is a really good play concept from Sean Payton, and it works beautifully here. So in terms of the coverage, since they're in 12 personnel, the Colts are in their base defense, and they're basically playing man coverage across the board here, right? And I want to say these guys are in like underneath coverage, and then he's your single deep safety. So they're in kind of like cover one man, which is relatively common in your base defenses. And look at this throw. This is a great throw from Bo Nix. It's pretty wide open, but he does have to layer it a little bit. So you see off the play action, fake throws it to Marvin Mims to kind of move this linebacker over, as well as the safety. So just very subtle. That's all you need in your pump throws. Just very subtle and perfect pump play there. And then boom, throws it, layers it over the defenders, right into the basket for Adam Troutman for a 13-yard touchdown. That's a beautiful play. Now, it's more like a schemey type of play, right? It's kind of like a trick play, right? RPO. It's a fake RPO that is going to one of the tight ends or Cortland Sutton, right? And I mean, it's just his ability to look off the safety, and he does this a lot. So in terms of his experience in college, he really kind of understands how to look off throws, and he does a really good job, Bo Nix does, of not locking his eyes on the guy that he's throwing to, which is really good. That's a really good trait to have for a quarterback, just so the safeties aren't reading you as often. And yeah, beautiful play from Bo Nix, showcasing his experience and the threat of the RPO play in this offense, and they can play off of that beautiful play call too. All right, guys, in this play, Bo Nix is really utilizing his legs to get yardage when a play kind of breaks down. And honestly, guys, I wasn't really expecting Bo Nix to be super mobile at the next level, and he really proved me wrong here, guys. He was relatively mobile at Oregon, but, you know, I thought he was going to be more of a typical pocket passer, and he kind of blew up. I think he had like 400 plus rushing yards on the season last year, and this kind of ability really makes him not really a dual threat quarterback, but you do have to watch out for Bo Nix's legs, and it kind of implements another dynamic to his game that defenses will have to respect. So they're in 12 personnel again here, but they don't really work off the play action, and the play concept is basically a deep shot play. So you have this guy kind of on a double move, coming outside like he's going to run a corner and then exploding upfield. You have 14 here on a deep post that does end up getting kind of open, but I guess Bo Nix doesn't really like what he sees in terms of the defense. And then this tight end's going to be running a deep dig. And then this guy looks like he's running a route, but in reality, he's just blocking. And then the running back is just going to leak out into the flat for the check down if he needs it. Now, in terms of the defense, I believe they're in a cover 3 zone here. You know, defenses get a little weird sometimes with their coverage. It kind of looks like man-to-man on the outside a little bit here. But in all honesty, I think this is like a cover 3. And you're going to see Bo Nix navigate through the pocket, avoid pressure, and then step up through a hole and get a really nice chunk gain. So hikes the ball here, gets out into space. They love him on bootlegs, kind of using his legs because he's very good at throwing on the run when there's no pressure. Bo Nix is surprisingly accurate on the run, so Sean Payton gets him out in space as much as he can. And he sees the post, but he's kind of worried about this safety kind of jumping in the route, which I can understand. Bo Nix, he doesn't have the strongest arm to push it downfield with the velocity that you'd want. Kind of hangs up there a little bit, but like I said, his ball placement is still very, very good. So overall, the double move over here doesn't end up working. That's kind of his first read. And you'll see, step up in the pocket to avoid the sack, juke a little bit, go in between the two offensive linemen here, kind of get skinny too. You don't really see that from quarterbacks very often. Getting skinny, moving through the hole, you see kind of slims down his body a little bit to push through the hole. And you're going to see the acceleration. navigates the pocket, kind of goes down. You'd like him to slide a little bit here, which, he kind of does. He kind of goes down so he doesn't get hit by the corner or the safety here. So relatively smart rushing intelligence from Bo Nix here. But you kind of see he really has a second gear to him once he starts running. I mean, look at that. Yeah, that's nothing super crazy, but that's really good for your quarterback to have, especially if you're wanting to work him into space like Sean Payton does. But yeah, guys, this adds another dynamic to his game, and defenses are just going to have to accept it. So, good play here from Bo Nix, operating within the pocket and getting some yardage. All right, guys, so in this play here, this is Week 1 versus the Seattle Seahawks, and if you owned him in fantasy last year, you know how much he struggled the first few weeks of the season. I think he was really adjusting to the speed of the NFL, and obviously the NFL is going to be a lot faster than in college. And I also think Sean Payton kind of simplified the offense once he saw how much Bo Nix was struggling, kind of stuck it to RPOs, play action, things that Bo Nix is very, very good at. But in this case, it's not a play action, and it's a fairly simple concept. It's what we call flood. So you have this guy running a corner route to the end zone. You got this guy running behind him on an out route. And then this guy is kind of running this whip route to the sideline. And flood works really well versus zone coverage for the most part, unless they have a lot of deep zones. And we'll go about this in a second. The Seattle Seahawks play this really well. But you kind of read this the same way you read levels. So you have your first read here, which is obviously the deep corner route, and then your out routes your 2, and then you read this whip route last. And then you even have another guy in the tight end here coming over. He's your 4th option here on the deep post if they overplay this side of the field. But you'll see they kind of have man-to-man coverage on him, so it doesn't end up working out. And then the back here kind of checks protection. Pretty simple stuff here from the back. But you'll see Bo Nix gets some pressure in his face, and this is one thing I have to criticize about him, guys. Once he gets pressure in his face, he will go full Sam Darnold and throw some of the worst throws you'll see all year. And I'll go over the defense here real quick. I think they're in cover 4 quarters, and they kind of have another guy here kind of manning him up, and then you have, I think he's supposed to play this outside zone, but ends up man covering this guy right here. So maybe they're in cover 3 and this guy's just playing man, but I think it's cover 4. Then you have underneath coverage with these guys playing, kind of some hook zones here. And we're going to go over it real quick. So Bo Nix hikes the ball here. Great instant pressure. He cuts inside number 99 for the Seahawks here. Cuts inside the guard's hip. Guard kind of falls down here. And he gets not instant pressure, but fairly quick pressure. And you'll see Bo Nix hop, hop, hop. You don't really want to do this as a quarterback. Obviously I'm not a quarterback, but quarterback 101, you kind of want to have a good base underneath you. And with him, I'd love to see him just kind of run out to his side here and just, kind of throw off platform like he's really good at. But he kind of hops back, buys himself a little bit more time, throws off his back foot, which normally he's very good at doing, but when there's pressure, it's a whole different story. And he throws to the deep corner of the end zone. I will say the ball placement was good enough. If there was no safety here, it would have been a touchdown. But obviously there's a safety playing him the entire time. And he cuts the route short and intercepts it. So horrible play from Bo Nix here. You have to see the safety deep downfield, and you have to just kind of take your check down here or, throw it to the whip route here. But, yeah, horrible play from Bo Nix. He's going to have to clean that up, and he's really going to have to get more comfortable when there's pressure in his face. All right, guys, here's yet another pretty horrible play from Bo Nix. He's going to force it into a horrible window on this crossing route from Courtland Sutton and basically throw it into 4 defenders pretty much. But there is a little bit of context here. So the Broncos and the Bengals here, this is very late in the season, and it's a must-win game for both teams because their playoff hopes for both teams here are very much alive. It's 3rd and 15 here with less than 3 minutes to go in the game. It's tied 17-17 as well, and the Broncos are very much trying to get a first down here. So with the play concept, he's got an outside release go ball here, trying to get open deep down the field. This guy's trying to split the safeties up the seam on this streak route. And then his number one option here is Courtland Sutton going over the middle of the field on this crossing route, trying to get open. And then the guy that actually ends up getting wide open here is the back, who's just going to leak out into the flat. Now, obviously, the Bengals know they're passing here, so they're only going to go with 3 down linemen. These guys are going to be in coverage, kind of underneath, and then they're running a cover 6. So you have 3 deep zones here, and then you have 3 more pretty deep zones as well. So they're very much trying to cover the entire area of the field. Now, obviously, versus cover 6 is very weak to the run and underneath routes, but when it's 3rd and 15, guys, they're not worried about underneath routes. So you'll see what Bo Nix does. So even with 3 down linemen, they do get pretty decent pressure here. So Bo Nix steps up with pressure in his face, and he ends up throwing it not to this wide open flat route, but he throws it in this area here with 1, 2, 3 defenders that are very much easily able to make a play on this. So undershoots it by a good margin. I know what he was trying to do here. The ball placement wasn't very good here. He's trying to layer it basically over these defenders and into the bucket for Courtland Sutton. Very difficult throw, and you'll see he just kind of undercuts it a little bit, doesn't put enough air underneath it, goes right to the linebacker. Pretty horrible throw. Like I said, I would love for him to just step up in the pocket and not – I'm sure the play design is for him to kind of go out here, but with it being 3 down linemen that are lined up very wide here, I'll kind of show you this. You'll kind of see the linemen obviously are going to be going on the outside here, trying to push Bo Nix in. And that's where he should be going, stepping up, getting a solid base here instead of leaking out this way. That just doesn't make sense to me. Like I said, it's probably how the play call is supposed to go, but I'd love for him to step up in this pretty solid pocket here and throw a strike. I think the ball placement would have been a little bit better here. But in all honesty, guys, I would just love for him to throw it to the flat, like right in here. See if Audric Estime can get a little bit more yardage. And then you're working with 4th and 5 here on the Bengals' 45-yard line. I think that's very doable, especially with how, dynamic this offense is. But instead, throws a turnover late in the game. That just cannot happen. At worst, just throw the ball away and, punt the ball. But, yeah, you cannot let that happen. Cannot let that happen. That's a poor play from Bo Nix. After watching the tape, I think Bo Nix showed a lot more polish than people expected, especially on play action, off-platform throws, and in the RPO game. His ball placement and ability to manipulate defenders are legit strengths for the most part. The next step is handling pressure. If he can get more comfortable when things break down and the offense keeps humming like it did last year, Bo Nix should lock himself in as a low-end QB1 in Dynasty moving forward. If you enjoyed the breakdown, drop a like, subscribe to the channel for more QB film, and let me know in the comments, is Bo Nix your QB1 stash or a sell high candidate in Dynasty? Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hey.